We're up to Daf Mem Aleph. The share this evening is being learned Leilu Nishmas, Daniel Yehuda ben Achava Yosef, the father of our very own Rav Yankel, and Avram Rav Avram Zechariah Menachem ben Tzvi Yehuda, Abi Oberlander Zechet Tzadik Levracha. I was zeichet that my son and him were very close for a while. He was a real mashpia, and the Shan Dischus, Shpia Melis Yosef as Mishpacha and for Kal Yisrael. Okay, we're up to Mem Amid Beis, and we're about the two dots, about 10, 12 lines up. So we've been dealing, fellas, with the lacha of Maida b'miktsas, that you have a shur deraisa, where a person admits to part of something, right? A person makes claims of 100, he claims to 50, he's chayv shur deraisa. What happens? The person claims 100, and he says, Lahadam, nishke tzoygin, nishke flogin lahoy. It never was. He's kaifer b'kol. So he's not chayiv shvua. It seems kind of ironic. Right? So this is a very psychological reason, fellas. Very psychological. If a person does you a favor and lends you money, you would not have the chutzpah to go ahead and say lahadam. Chazaka ain't other mayas front of Baldan. The person's not going to have what? Have the chutzpah. What about chazaka that a person wouldn't make a claim unless there was something there? So for that reason, Rav Nachman, and this is a very, very Yisaydi Dikadin throughout Shas, there's a Shua de Rabbanon, which is known as a Shevuous Hesses. A Shevuous Hesses. The Lashon of Hesses is interesting. According to Rashi, it's from Em Hashem Esischu Bi. David tells Shaul, if Hashem incites you against me, he places you against me. So the Lashon is, he places a Hesses, he places in your heart, Sambel Vavcha, to go against me. So that's the Lashon Rashi says of Hesses. So, Manali b'yadcha, ein lecha b'yadi pata. Rav Nachman, says Rav Nachman, umashbiyin says Shevuous Hesses. My timer, why do you make him swear? Chazak ein adam taiveya elam ken yesh la yalav. In other words, if this guy's making a claim, but what kind of chutzpah would he have to make a claim? He's not lying, so he must have money by you. He must have money by you. Says Ma'ad Rabba, Chazak ein adam meyes panav fnei bal chayvay. Right, a person would not have the chutzpah to go ahead and deny. You lent me money. Now I'm going to go ahead and say you didn't lend me money. So why does one chazaka outweigh the other chazaka? And here's the reason: he's slipping away. He does in his mind. He's not lying. Savar adahavele uparanale. I'm buying myself time till I have, and I'll pay back. So each one has a chazaka. The chazaka that he won't have the chutzpah to go ahead and claim from somebody unless there was something, overrides the chazaka of a person would have the chutzpah to go ahead and say, you don't owe me any. The chutzpah to say, you never lent me money when he did. In fact, we're saying he's not totally lying. He's just buying himself time. Right now, I don't have the money. I was supposed to pay you back in a month. Many of us have had the feeling of a chayiv that's due, a mortgage payment that's due, and the money's not there. So he goes, he's slipping away in order to buy time. So what do? They throw a shvu upon him. And the feeling is that he's not going to swear unless there was nothing to it. Teda, guys, what's a raya to this? Guys, so outside, let's do the raya outside. If a person is muchsig as a kafrin, as a liar, he's pasul edus. If I could be a malamid schus, why he said what he said, then he's not muchsig a kafrin. The Gemara is going to say something fascinating. A person's kaifa b'milva, right? He's not pasul edus. A person's kafa b'pikadon. Where's my pikadon? And now you don't have the svara of ishtamut kamishtamit because you had no right to use the pikadon. If you use the pikadon, you were shalech yad. You have to pay. You're a gazlan. The mele. So therefore, it says teda a raya to the svara fellas. Teda, what's the raya? The Amar Avidi, Amar Avav, and Amar Chista. Hakaifa b'milva. Someone who denies a loan and finds out afterwards they were Eidim, Kashal Eidis. We don't say that this guy was was Muhchse Kafrin. Adam came afterwards and said, you owe him money. We don't go ahead and say this guy is Huchse Kafrin is Pasal Eidus. Why? Because Ishtamuti Kam Ishtamit. However, Bipikodin, if the guy says, I don't have your Pikodin, and Eidus comes and says he does, he's Muhchse Kafrin and he's Pasal Eidus. It's a very good raya. So again, this is Yesodis the Gedin. You remember it, guys, from Bava Metzia. It's right at the beginning of Masech the Bava Metzia. That's where you know it from, right? So the din is Shevuous Hesses. So Shevuous Hesses, we throw a shvu on him in order to get him to admit the truth. Rav Chaviva Masni HaSeifa. Rav Chaviva, he learned Rav Nachman's din not on the Resha, where the person made a claim and he was kaifa b'kol. He used Rav Nachman's din on the following: Manali biyotcha, amaloi hein. He admits, guys, that there's money. He admits there's money. So a guy makes, you owe me $100, and he says it's true. L'macha amaloi teneoli. The next day he says, give it to me, and he says, nasativ lach, I gave it to you already. Pata, he's pata. He's pata. He doesn't have to pay. You make him swear as Shevuous Hesses. So the question is, where did Rav Nachman say is din on? The ratio where the guy was not moided to money at all, or the sefer where he was moided to money? Guys, that's the difference between the ratio and the sefer, right? In the ratio, he was kaifa b'kol. In the sefer, he admits to it, and then he's kaifa the next day. He said he paid him. So, but he has to swear Shevuous Hesses. Okay, man the masnei ratio. The one who learns it on the ratio where he was kaifa b'kol totally, kol shkena sefer. Certainly on the sefer, you're going to make him swear. Certainly on the sefer, you're going to make him swear. Guys, Madach, where he denies it totally, you can make him swear. Certainly where he's moida, that he owes him the money, you're going to make him swear, right? Umad the masnei sefer, but the one that learned it on the sefer, the case where he was moida that he owed him, and then denied the next day. There you have drora de Ramayna. I'll explain that in a second. Over there, not. So, like the man the Amma who learned it on the sefer, in the ratio, you would not even throw Shevuous Hesses on him. You wouldn't throw Shevuous Hesses. What does it mean, drora de Ramayna, guys? That's also big machlokes Rishonim. I like the Ritva. The Ritva in Bava Metzia says Pashat. Yesh shaykhis money. You have a shaykhis to money. In other words, why are we making this guy swear? Because he admitted. Guys, he admitted I owed you money. I paid afterwards, but he's admitting that there's a monetary chiyuv over here. Masha came in the Resha where he was kaifa b'kol. There was no monetary chiyuv. It's your word against my word, right? So therefore, you would not have a Shevuous Hesses. So the one who learns it on the Resha, kol shkein the sefer. The one who learned it on the sefer, on the Resha not. Because in the Resha, you don't have that shaykhis money. You don't have admission to any money. Okay, now, so we have a chilik, fellas. Either way, even if you're not moed b'miktsas, even if you're not moed b'miktsas, guys, and you're going to end up swearing, right? So what's the difference? I'm ending up swearing side by side. I'm either ending up swearing because of a deraisa, or I'm end up swearing the Rabbana, but I'm swearing. So the Gemara wants to know what's the difference between the two. Ma'ik can be shvua deraisa, shvua derabbanon. Ich binayu meipich shvua, going ahead and reverting the shvua. Let's say the following, guys. Shvua moedim mixes. Guy says, I don't want to swear. You swear. Right? We don't do it. Loi mafchinon. We're not meipich the shvua. Shvua derabbanon mafchinon. In other words, moedim mixes is the raisa, you're supposed to swear. You can't make me swear. Shvua derabbanon. You can go ahead and be meipich the shvua on the other guy. That's according to the first opinion. Fred Gemara ulama baravashi the Amar bidaraisa nami mefchayinon. Baravashi holds by midaraisa also, meaning by moedim and mixas, we'll go ahead and throw the shvua back on him. It could be nayu mechas lenechseib, going down to the nechasim. The guy doesn't want to swear. Will we go down to his property or not? Bidaraisa, if he's chayav shvua deraisa, and he doesn't want to swear, nachtina lenechsei. We're going to go to his nechasim. B'drabanon loy nachtina lechasei. B'drabanon we're not going to. So two nafkaminas, right? Either according to Tanakama, whether midaraisa you don't switch, you don't throw it back on. According to Mabaravashi, is what by the Rabbanon you're not going to go down to his property. Fred the Gemara, Rabbi Yosi, the Omer b'Drabanan Nami Nachtinon. The Rabbanan also Nachtinon. You're going to go down to the property. The Nechse did not. Metzias Cheresh Shaita v'Katan. Now we know that a Cheresh Shaita v'Katan, they have no kinyanim. So if they pick something up for all intensive purposes, it's hefker. But you can't steal it from them. Yesh bem gezel mefeidak shalom. If you take it away from them, it's dark shalom. You're not allowed to. Rabbi Yosi Amar gezel gomer. It's only the Rabbanan. So the question is, if according to the Tanakh Kama, it says it's Darke Shalom. According to Rabbi Yossi, it says Gezel Gama May Nafkamina. And either way, it's the Rabbanan. You can't take it away. What's the difference? May Nafkamina. It's Siyah B'Dayanim. Go ahead to be Mitzvah Dayanim. Okay, so meaning, like the Darke Shalom, you wouldn't be Mitzvah Dayanim. Like this the time that's Gezel Gama with the Rabbanan, you would be Mitzvah Rabbanan. You would be mitzvah dayanim. So like Rabbi Yossi fellas, the Rabbanon, you'd also go down to the property. So what's the nafkamina like Rabbi Yossi between the shua, the raisa, shua, the Rabbanon? It could be in the rest of the Rabbanon. It could be if the other person can't swear. The raisa shekineg the chashal shua afchinanle shua besamo aidach. If the guy can't swear, let's say ma'idam mixus, but the guy is a huchse kafrin. So you go ahead, you swear, and then you collect the money, right? All shua guys. All shvuos are to get you off the hook. Shvuos the raisa are to get you off the hook. Shvuos the rabbanon is nishba v'noitel. So over here, right? So, well, not all the rabbanon. Shvuos has to obviously get yourself off the hook. Over here, if he's chayshin on a shvua and we throw it back to you because he's moedim mixas and he can't swear because he's hochsa kafrin because he's chayshin, we're going to go ahead and throw it back to you, and then you'll take. That's by the raisa. Midrabanon takantahi. The Rabbanon Shavuos has is a takana. If takant le'avdinon to make a takana and throw a shua Rabbanon back on him is another Rabbanon that we're not going to do. Okay, concept very interesting, guys. Like Rabbi Yossi says that you go down to the property. Good. The Chacham say you don't go down to the property. The Chacham. The Rabbanan, they argue. They say that you don't go down to the property. Okay. So Rabbanan the Pligale Rabbi Yossi dom with Rabbanan linachtin l'chasei ma'yavdinan le. What are you doing for him, guys? Guys, watch. Swear is shua. What's the difference? Guys, look at me. Shua the Rabbanan. Look at me. Shua the Rabbanan, shua the Raisa. What's the difference? Shua the Raisa, you're going to go down to this property. Shua the Rabbanan. Right, you're not going to go down to his property. Good. Like the Chachamim, so what did you gain? Like Rabbi Yossi, it makes sense. But Rabbanon, what do you make you swear? If you're not going to go down to his property, what did you gain by the shvua? The guy, he doesn't swear. So, in other words, whether he makes the shvua or doesn't make the shvua, either way he doesn't lose. If he makes the shvua, he doesn't make the shvua, either way he doesn't lose. So, what did Rabbanon accomplish? Oh, sorry. Says the Rabbanon Mishamtina, we're going to put him in Cherem. We're going to put him in Cherem. Amalei Ravino Ravashi, Hanakti Bekufse the Nishavke Leglimeh. It's a lashon naki, guys, of grabbing onto a certain part of the body and holding on, and eventually what do you gain? Again, so he's in Cherem, right? He's in Cherem. So, but the bottom line is what's going to go get him off. Rashi says, you're putting him in Chayim forever. There's nothing, eventually he's going to go to the property. In other words, the bottom line is, you're saying that you don't go down to his property. By putting him Chayim, there's no bigger going down to his property than that. Because there's no limit on that. So the Gemara says, the halacha is by Cherem, fellas. After 30 days, the guy doesn't listen, you give him malchus. After 30 days, the guy stays in Cherem. He doesn't listen to what the Chachamim, they were really men in those days, and they would go ahead and they would go ahead and we put him Cherem till the day of the malchus. Vinaktinan lei, you give him malchus, v'shavkinan lei. Okay, so therefore, like the Chachamim, the Shua the Rabbanon, that he wasn't, guys. So what do you gain by the Shua the Rabbanon? If he doesn't want to do it, we're going to put him Cherem until he gets malchus. Amra Papa. Hayman the ofik shtari al chavre. Guy takes a star, he puts it on his friend. He takes out a star on his friend. V'amalei star peruhu. Guy says it's paid up. Now, if it's paid up, what is he doing with the star? What's he doing with the star? So we've been through the sugyas of what of kaisvin shoiver. We've been through the sugyas of what of ripping it up, right? Anyway, the guy he says it's prua. Sarmin lay lav kol kaminach. You don't have that power. Sil shlip, since he's holding on to a star with Adam signed on it, right? You have to pay. Vim Amar, and he says l'shtov ali. Listen to this Chiddush nifla, guys. The guy's holding on to a star, says he owes him money, and the loiva says to the malvin, "Swear to me that I owe you." Armina le We say to the milva, "Go ahead and swear." We say to the milva, "Go ahead and swear." Now this seems to be a mudna din, right, guys? You think about it. He's holding on to a star. I'm holding on to a star. I go to court. I ask you to pay. You're kaifer, and now you say I should swear. Why should I swear? I'm holding on to a star. Okay. So if you look at Tosfos, guys, there's a one-liner in Tosfos here. The first wide line in Tosfos, the middle of the line. Vadai tiknu rabbanon, mishum d'shchichi d'misramezim natuva. Very often, it's possible that you paid up the star and the guy still has it. The boss at the pare, after he paid up, you left the star in his hands. In other words, we see such a svara. The fact that you have onto the star is not a raya that it wasn't paid, because we find that people, they do haramis all the time. Really, you're a yuckle. You're really a yuckle for that. You shouldn't have paid up. But so the fact, Tosfos answering the kasha, the fact that he has the star is not a raya brewer that you didn't pay up. Therefore, if he tells you to swear, says Rapapa, you're going to go ahead and swear. It's a good Tosfos to know. Underline that line there. There's a lot of Torah like that. One line is a good nakuda fit. Okay, so I'm really shtabale. Amalei Ravacha Breder Rav Ravashi. Uma bein zel lepogim eshtarai. Say a person's pogim the star. Person says shows up with a ksuba and admits to paying part of it. Admits to paying part of it. So they're pogim the star. The star says 200, and you're admitting to 100 of it. So you're pogim the star. Amalei Hasam Afagav Toyin by pogim star. Even if the person does not say in Besdin, swear, the ihu toyin ihu tanina le'anon. Okay, Pirish. Guy's pogim the star, but he doesn't say to swear. Besdin is going to say, okay, you're claiming 200, and he's admitting to 100. Go ahead and swear. Pogim the star, swear. Besdin will say that. Mashen came over here, unless this guy says it, we're not going to teach him to say it. However, and if he's a Talmud Chacham, and if he's what? He's Tzumar Rabbanon, we won't go ahead what? We won't make him swear, and we'll collect what? With the star, even though the star was pogum, we'll collect the price of the star. Only Rav Yehuda Ravashi, Tzumar Rabbanon Meshalchi Glima de Inshe. We'll allow it Tzumar Rabbanon to go ahead and take the coat of a person. In other words, if we're chayshid, Ella, what do you say? If it's Talmud Chacham, we're not going to go ahead and bring him to din. And we won't bring him to din. That's pshat. Now, Manali biyadcha, the Mishnah said, Manali biyadcha, and you said to him, do not give it to me, only with Adam. Lamachar, he says, Teneoli. Then he says, Nasati v'lacha. To the next day, he says, give it to me. And he says, I gave it to you, Chayiv, because he has to give it with Adam. Again, the case of the Mishnah was where he mentioned that he has to go ahead and give it with Adam. That's the case of the Mishnah. So Manali biyadcha, right? And he said what? He said before Adam, then Yechayev. Rav Yehuda, Rav Asi. This is different, guys. Hamal v'eschaver be'Adam, tzarich leproya be'Adam. Now, he didn't say anything. In our Mishnah, he stated only pay back with Adam. Over here, he lent it with Adam. Now, the question is, when he lends it with Adam, is that tantamount to saying you have to pay back with Adam? Nah. That's the rest of the sugya for this evening. Hamal v'eschaver be'Adam, tzarich leproya be'Adam. You have to pay back with Adam. Kiamisa kamei de Shmuel. when this was said in front of Shmuel, Amali, Yachaloima, he's able to say, Rabbi Yehuda, right? He said to me, Rabbi Yehuda, Yachaloima, Praiticha, B'fnei Pliny, Pliny, V'hochalim Medina Sayam. He's able to claim that he played in front of Adim and he went overseas. So, in other words, it's not always a winning taina to say that you went ahead and lent it with Adim, you have to pay back with Adim, because he can taina and pay back with Adim and they left overseas and he'd be believed. Tanan, Manali Biyadcha, and he says, I'm a hain. He says, a money of mine is in your hands. And he says in front of Adim, guys, he says in front of Adim, hain, yes, that's true. The next day he says, give it to me. And he says, Nasativ Lach, I gave it to you. Pata. He's Pata. Now, since he was Taveya Be'edim, Kimanda Oisra Be'edim, dummy. In other words, since he claimed, right over here, he claimed in front of Adim. Guys, B'shas Halva, look at me. B'shas Halva, there was no one there. He's claiming in front of Adim, you owe me $100, and he's saying, hey. So the Gemara is assuming since the Taina was in front of Adim, the Priya also has to be in front of Adim. And therefore it's going to be a kasha on Shmuel. So says the Gemara. One more time. Amaloi b'shnei Adim. Hey lemacha. Amaloi teneli. Nesativ l'cha. Plata. Aiva hacha kivin de tava be'edim kimanda oisa be'edim dami v'katani pata. It's a kasha on Rav Avsi. It's a kasha on Ravasi, not Shmuel. It's a kasha on Ravasi, who says you chayiv to pay in front of Edim. Tuyufta de Ravasi. It's a tuyufta de Ravasi. Now, guys, the Havamina was that since you were toyin in front of Edim, it's like you lent in front of Edim. So I'm like Ravasi, I said it only when you lent it, not when you what? The loyalty day him there, he didn't believe him. And that's why he went ahead and he dafka in front of Adim, did he go ahead and make the loan? But guys, obviously over here, he only claimed in front of Adim. But obviously he lent it shaloi be'edim, and therefore you pata. In other words, the Gemara made an assumption. The Gemara's assumption was since you're toyin in front of Adim, it's tantamount to making the loan in front of Adim. And the Gemara's answering, Avasi's answering, it's not a good dimyon. When you lend in front of Adim, then the svara that you have to pay in front of Adim. When you don't lend in front of Adim, even though if the Haidah was in front of Adim, then you pata from a shvur. Or from paying. Okay, now here you learned of Adim. The opposite. You don't have to pay back with Adim. The opposite of Ravasi. And if he says after friendly only pay me back in front of Adim, Kamisa Kamei de Shmuel, Amali, Yachalai Malai, Praiticha B'nei Pliny B'Hochalim Medina Sayam. Okay, the same thing. Tana, Manli Biyadcha, Amalai Hain, it's true. Amalai Atit Nenuli Ela B'Fnei Adim, only give it back to me in front of Adim, and right. Lemachar Amalai Teneuli, Nesativ Lach, I gave it to you, Chayiv. So you see over here, guys, the halva did not take place in front of Adim. The halva did not take place in front of Adim. But he told him, only pay me back in front of Adim. And you can't believe to say what? They went Medina Sayom, Kash on Shmuel. Shmuel wants to say you can make a claim that what they went overseas. No, can't make that claim. So Kash on Shmuel. Shmuel can't argue on a Tana. And for the Gemara Tanoim, it's Machlokes Tanoim. And Shmuel has a Tana that he can go according to. The Tanya, Be'edim Hilvi Sicha, Be'edim Parali, Be'edim Hilvi Sicha, I lent you, Be'edim pay me back. A Yitain, a Yavi Raya Shinasan. Rabbi Yehuda Mesei Roimeh, Yachaloi Maloi, Praiticha B'fnei Pliny V'Hochalim Bin Sayam. So L'chayra, he has a very good raya that he also like Rabbi Yehuda Mesei. He also like Rabbi Yehuda Mesei. He has a Tana that goes according to him. Parich Rab Abba. Rabbi Abba wants to say, what does this brisa have to do with Hamalva Be'edim? Mimai, when he says, by Edim I lent you, the B'shas Halva Koi, Dilma B'shas Tfiyah Koi, he'll be Sicha. What do you think it means I lent you in front of Edim? Maybe it means I made a claim to you in front of Edim. Lav be'edim he'll be sicha, right? Did I not lend it to you with edim? Be'edim hoyle lepereni. In other words, the Bryce is speaking where he didn't dafka land in front of edim. Edim were there. Right, let me just get this one more time. Okay. What raya from this brisa do you bring that Yehuda Sefer holds like Shmuel? Right. It's mashma. He said be'edim hil visicha that the halva took place in front of edim. The b'shas halva koi. Dilma, this amira is speaking b'shas tvia koi. When he said I lent you, right? He's speaking after the fact. Kishoyma haloiva perua. When the loiva says perua, he's saying I made a claim on you in front of edim. Guys, not that I lent you in front of edim, but I made a claim on you in front of edim. Right? I made a claim on you in front of edim. Did I not make a claim in front of you in front of edim? And therefore you should go ahead and pay me back in front of edim. Avol b'shas halva, the kol chayiv. Could be that according to, in other words, Shmuel does not have someone he's going according to. Shmuel needed Rabbi Yehuda B'Seir to say it's speaking b'shas halva, and if it's not speaking b'shas halva, then he doesn't have. And everyone would hold b'shas halva yechayiv, and you're not believed to say the edim went overseas. Avarav Papi Shmei de Rava Hilchas Halacha is the following: Hamal v'eschaver be'edim tzarich l'porer be'edim. If you lend like Rav Asi, if you lend be'edim. Rav Papa Mishmei the Rava Amar Hamal Veschaver Be'edim Ein Tzorch L'Por Be'edim. You don't have to. The Mama Al Tefreni El Be'edim. If he makes the condition to go ahead and pay with Edim, Tzorch L'Por Be'edim. You have to. The Mama Lo Praticha B'Fnei Poni Poni. If he says I did pay you, B'Hochel Ben V'Yasayom, then Neman is believed. So again, automatically, if you malva Be'edim, you don't have to pay back, right? If you malva Be'edim, you have to pay back with Edim, right? Rav Papa says no. Rav Papa says you don't have to. But if the guy makes the condition that you have to, you have to. However, you would be believed with the taina that he goes overseas. Okay, I have to stop here. I'm not.